Okay, have and have not fans, it's time for a new video. And honestly, I didn't think I'd be dropping a video a day. It seems like that's going to be the trend from now on if things work out based off my schedule. So, again, I just took a look at the comment section on my last few videos, as well as the have and have not Facebook page and Twitter. And it seems unanimous that aside from the video on what is Mama Rose's plans with Warlock, Jennifer's body, and how Jim will be involved, the a majority of fans didn't really have a comment in terms of what the next video should be. Everybody is still enraged over the fact that little Quincy Jr. is dead. So I think that this video itself should be my own thoughts. And again, everybody's been saying the same thing. Was it right for Tyler Perry to have a child killed off, much less a child who was, number one, really just introduced into the series a few episodes ago? Not to mention, he hasn't had a good life. When you think about it from Hanna's perspective, she even said that that child has never had it easy. I mean, from the only time he had some relative sense of normality in his life was when Hanna was raising him after he was born for the first maybe 2 or 3 years of his life. Then Candace came in, took him away, and then Hanna hasn't seen a baby in maybe 3, 4, 5 years. And we learned that instead of being killed, as Quincy told Candace that he threw him off a bridge when they were fishing, or threw him off a boat while they were fishing, he had actually been raised by his sister Quita in that hellhole on the other side of town. And when he got found by Benny, taken to the hospital, it turned out he had a lot of beatings and whoopings on his back, and he had scars. And he was, if Benny didn't come in when he did, he most likely would have eventually died from infections from the wounds he had. So this child has never had it easy. And if I'm not mistaken, there was some kind of medicine that Quincy had in his pocket to give his son. I don't know if it was asthma or some kind of other disease he had, but it was medicine to help him live, just put it that way. And it is sad because honestly, if you remember back to a couple of videos I did before the ending of last season, and again, there's going to be a little icon on the right hand side corner of this video where you can click on. I went into detail about will Warlock shoot Quincy, will who's at fault for little Quincy dying, and I really go in depth in those videos on my thoughts about how Quincy's death would have an impact on the storyline, as well as whose fault was it that he was actually shot. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, Warlock was the one to pull the trigger, him along with his crew pulling the trigger in the motel room, and then the shots went through the bathroom and hit Quincy all over the body. So Warlock pulled the trigger. Jim was the one to get Warlock out of jail, and Candace was, if not for her, running around deceiving and tricking people, he wouldn't have come after her in the first place. So, and the list goes on. I go into detail in the video who's at fault for little Q getting shot. I feel like you should watch that video because, again, I go in depth, and I don't want to do the same thing here because it'll be like a 20-30 minute video. So again, I really just want to make this video focusing on, was it right for Tyler Perry to do what he did? I'm just going to say this up front, and I don't mean for it to sound like a cop-out answer. It's Tyler Perry's the haves and the have-nots, not Jeremy Carden's the haves and the have-nots, not Mary Sue's haves and the have-nots. Basically, Interviewer is not our show, but it was made for us. Let's put it that way. And it is sad. Like, honestly, I can kind of remember my tone, my demeanor, my attitude when I did the video. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the most popular videos on his channel. I believe I said, will little Q get shot by a Warlock? And again, that video was in the corner of this one. If you click on the link, I did like a theory video about, will Quincy be the one to get shot by Warlock? I kid you not, I put that video together and threw it up online on my channel like 15 minutes before the episode aired, and it turned out I was right. And that was one of the few times I wish I wasn't, because I thought about it, and in the video, again, I go into more detail. In terms of plot, little Q's death meant the most in terms of the evolution of characters, in terms of Hanna's reaction, Benny's reaction, Candace's reaction. His death meant more to the series than anybody else in that room. Like, if Benny got shot, if Mitch got shot, if Hanna got shot, they would have had some kind of impact on the series. Obviously, Mama Rose would still go after Warlock. If Benny got shot, Candace would be, upset. And, if her mom got shot, it's kind of up in the air how she would feel about that. But at the end of the day, little Q's death meant the most. I mean, I feel like that's no excuse for a little kid being shot, especially a little kid who's rarely, if any during his lifetime had any positive influence. I mean, Hanna, that was his heart. I mean, that was her heart. That little boy was her heart, just like Amanda was to Jim in terms of that was the apple of his eye. So to see Hanna, I mean, again, I feel like Hanna is impacted the most because, again, I did another video involving Candace's reaction in terms of, does Candace have any right to be upset at Quincy's death? Did she really love that boy? Because, again, she really wasn't the mother of that child. And again, save your opinions for me later, but just watch that video. Again, it's in the description. I mean, I feel like I say this a lot in my videos, like, hey, if you want more details, look at this video. That's because I really, really take time and go in depth on different subjects, and that's why I feel this channel has been such a success recently, because fans have been discovering this guy isn't somebody who's just recapping episodes. I pretty much break down the episode, dissect it, talk about future story plots, character development. So I feel like if you want an in-depth, my thoughts on Candace in terms of her being a mother or her loving her son, go watch that video after you finish up here, because I really go in, and I want to be straightforward. I don't think she cared about that child. I mean, some people might get mad. Half the fan might actually agree with me, because if you think about how after she found out that Quincy was alive, because remember, Quincy was technically introduced, if I'm not mistaken, was it in season 2 towards the end? It was when Quincy showed up at Hannah's house and like was dangling Quincy Jr. upside down at the window. And then he was like, tell me where Candace is, and you have him. But Hanna honestly didn't know. So technically, Quincy Jr. was introduced a while ago, but he wasn't fully introduced into the show until Benny found him at Quita's house. So I will say that Candace didn't use any of her resources. She was too busy trying to mess with the criers after Amanda's death and messing around with Oscar, because again, as Hanna said, with all your resources and whatnot, you could have found him easily, which I think that if she made a couple of phone calls, she would have found her son, but she didn't do that. And now she wants to be upset, wants to act upset in the previews and whatnot when she finds out what happened. So I will be doing another video about Erika in regards to, her not telling, Candace about what happened to her son. I feel like, again, that's an entirely different conversation that it's worthy of its own video. It's going to go into detail about, Erika and Candace, and as well as, her and Warlock, how they got their, I don't even know if you want to call it a relationship, because as she told Candace, apparently Warlock killed her sister. So why is she running around with him? But again, that's another video in itself. I just feel that, if I'm not mistaken, I do watch If Loving You Is Wrong, but I'm not as attached to that show as the Haves and the Have-Nots, because I've been watching the Haves and the Have-Nots since day one. I didn't get into If Loving You Is Wrong until maybe the middle of season 2, and then I binge watched all the episodes. But that show's pacing has been moving at such a, well, and again, this is just my opinion, but I do feel a lot of fans agree with me. That show's been moving at a sluggish pace, and that's really hurt the viewership. I mean, that's not to say it doesn't still get a lot of viewers, but in terms of keeping my attention, it hasn't been doing that well. But in the last couple episodes of that season, is actually what's pretty good. So I might start doing videos on that in the future. But for now, I just think that I believe there was child death in that one. I got to rewatch the finale. I was too engrossed, like the Flash and Arrow and whatnot, when that show ended. But I feel like that show finale had child death as well, and people were going off about that. But Quincy Jr. has sparked a lot of attention, so that's why I'm doing this particular video, because again, Tyler Perry did what he had to do, unfortunately, because it all comes down to plot. And in terms of death, his death meant the most. I'm not saying that means that's not me saying that I like what happened to Quincy. No, I don't, because again, he's had a hard life from start to finish. I feel like it really did throw a wrench in Hanna's happiness, because again, you think about everything as Hanna's been through, from before the series began. She won the battle with breast cancer, but it took its toll, all those doctor bills. She saw her child get arrested based off Candace's actions. Remember when Benny went to jail in season 1 because he was driving Candace's car with the drugs in him that David planted? You look at her daughter in general, messing things up with the Crier estate, her friendship with Celine being severed. Then, Byron turned out to be a two-faced, spy. Then you look at her almost relationship with Michael, but then that just kind of, went off the rails because she was too preoccupied with her grandson. And now she lost the one positive, and then Benny being in the coma, then coming out with a completely different attitude, then him pulling a Candace, lying to his mom. So pretty much everything, or even her house being burnt to the ground. So Hanna has lost everything except for her faith in God, and now she had finally felt like she had gotten some sort of blessing after all the turmoil she's been through by finding her grandson, and then this happened. So I feel like, again, in terms of character development and plot, Quincy Jr.'s death meant the most, because you have to see where, I feel like, honestly, I know a lot of people don't like Hanna based off her character being hypocritical, but I'm actually looking forward to see what her character is going to do next, because her world has literally just ended right now. I mean, yeah, she still has Benny, but their relationship has been on the rocks. So with Quincy Jr. out of the picture, I'm just wondering what's going to happen now. Again, this could mean, will Michael step back into the picture? Because, again, remember, because of Wyatt's hit and run situation, he lost his grandchild, and Hanna was there to comfort him. So will this, again, in terms of plot, and I really hate to say it this way, but in light of Quincy's death, will that be a way of allowing Michael to step back into the picture? I wouldn't say Michael takes advantage of the situation. I don't really think he's that kind of guy based off the few episodes we saw him in, but I feel that this would be a great time for Hanna to have somebody to connect with and potentially have a relationship with, because again, she's been through so much. So aside from of course, her faith in God, she really needs, like, I'm not saying that she needs a man, but to have some solid foundation, like an anchor, that would be very nice. I feel like Michael stepping back in would be great. I know people making the memes like, Hanna, do you want me to cut your lawn? Or Michael might come in and build Hanna a house or something like that. So I feel that the plot, I'm really excited to see what happens next in terms of what the characters will do now in Quincy's death. But it really was a huge gamble on Tyler Perry's part, because, again, the fans have spoken. A lot of them, if not all of them, are just really pissed right now that a little kid was shot, especially with us seeing, well, not seeing him get shot, but seeing the aftermath of it. So honestly, this video was just, my thoughts on the situation, where I feel like the story might go next. I really, really, really want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. And again, I do appreciate the comments, but if you can be a little more detailed instead of, I hate that little Quincy was shot. If you can just kind of elaborate on that. Why do you feel like it was wrong that little Quincy was shot? Was it because, he was just a little kid? Because he's never had any stable foundation in his life? He's always been thrown from place to place, has been abused, and then when he finally got some good in his life with his uncle Benny and his grandma Hanna, his life ended. So with that being said, I want to bring this video to a close. I really can't wait to look at the comment section within the next 48 hours, because I know you all have been doing great with the comments. So as always, please subscribe, because I will be posting new videos this week, over the weekend actually, because I'm trying to get as much done before the next episode on Tuesday, because again, I still have so much more to talk about.